to Inks and Issues, a podcast where we discuss comics in a book club style format. I'm your host, Jonah Gregory, a freelance god man. It's been a bit since we've read this, so I forgot my goofs. And with me, as always...
my name is Kieran, and for 5 yen, I'll do anything.
Ooh, that's how I got you to be my co-host. And today we are joined once again by Michael-Dimauro of 10 billion podcasts, including Greetings Adventurers, You're a Wizard, Harry, Dear Internet. Welcome back, Michael.
Greetings Adventurers.
Yeah.
I did it.
Yeah.
That's how I say hi. That's how I'm obligated legally to introduce myself.
I've known you so long that it's really hard for me to not call you Thrifty out of habit. So I've made a very concerted effort to call you Michael instead.
I've talked with David, our editor, about systematically going through and erasing from history me ever being called Thrifty, which is a fun thing for me to try to get him to do, based on purely me just not 100% loving something.
Right.
You do a couple hundred hours of work.
Your Twitter is still that. So,
hey, come on.
Yeah.
That's, what am I used to?
It's from back in the day. We met via Facebook group for the Joystick podcast.
Oh, right. Yeah, absolutely. So, that is the whole progenitor of all of Geekly is the JPEG.
Yeah. So we've, that's why I'm like, it's more ingrained, I think, than it would even be for, Greetings Adventurers fans. I have to stop myself.
Yeah, so now I got to correct. Heard the hesitation.
Look,
I know
you can call me Thrifty. That's fine. I don't really mind as long as you spell my name right. I'm cool.
Yeah.
Hey, I wanted to come here today and have a good time, not be attacked. Whatever, I guess.
Kieran, you've also pointed out when people have spelled your name incorrectly. So
that's very true.
You're both very sensitive about that. So today we're going to be talking about more Noragami, which is a book, a manga, if you will. And it's about
a Japanese comic.
Yeah, it's about a god who is trying to get, I guess, worshippers. He's trying to get popular. Yeah. And he should just use the internet and start a podcast. That's how we've all done it.
Oh, yeah.
We're so popular. Lots of 5 yens on Patreon. But
you become very popular and very rich very easily.
Yeah, that's how it works for everybody. I
think so.
Yeah. I decided I didn't like my job, and I was like, oh, you know what? Why don't I just do a podcast?
Exactly.
I want something with a future.
It's did you ever watch With Bob and David when that came on Netflix, and his friends in one skit are all their goals for the year, their what do you call them? New Year's resolutions. One of them is going to run for Pope, and one of them is quitting his job to go make big budget Hollywood blockbuster movies. And then Paul F. Tompkins' character is trying to give up red meat. And they're all like, yeah, ours are real ones. We all know how much you love red meat.
That's awesome.
It's a good show. So it's been a bit. So has anyone read anything else that they have enjoyed, or has it all been just too much reading for the show for you, Kieran?
Yeah, I've just been reading for the show, and even then I've been kind of sucking at doing that.
Oh man. I actually have, because we've had a little bit of downtime between episodes and we made it through all of Age of Apocalypse. I actually jumped into the Power Rangers comics that were connected to the crossover that we covered forever ago with Mike Bachman.
Oh yeah.
And they're pretty good. They're entertaining. They're silly, but the art is really good in them. And they actually kind of redesigned the monsters that are normally, guys in rubber suits in the show to look like, okay, what if this weird ass monster that was made out of a pinball machine was more realistic looking? Nice. It's dumb and fun like you expect Power Rangers to be, but it was actually like a good read. I finished like the first volume and a very one sitting, blasted through it, and was immediately wanting to read more. So yeah, I was enjoying that. I would recommend checking it out. I think For those in countries that have Comixology Unlimited, I think the first few volumes are on there. So every time I have to feel guilty even bringing it up, but it's a good service if you live in
This has nothing to do with comics. I downloaded a VPN to get Comixology Unlimited and like went through this whole goddamn rigmarole process to try and like fool the website into thinking that I was an American, and it worked. And it was giving me American prices and like all these recommendations and stuff because it thought that I was an American.
Yeah.
And then when I tried to go and get Comixology Unlimited, as soon as I started putting my credit card in, it detected that it was a New Zealand credit card and told me to fucking eat ass and piss off.
It was like, nice try, dick.
Brutal.
I'm not falling for that one.
Pretty much. I was like, this is so rude.
Yeah, that's pretty lame. Like, I mean, I'm sure it's all rights issues with the publishing and whatnot.
I'm sure.
I'm sure that's way more complicated than I'm giving them credit for. But
yeah, honestly, we'll probably get to like, episode 300 billion of this podcast, and I'm still going to be talking about this.
I mean, if you didn't try to pay them in your Australian toonies or whatever, I mean, I'm sure it would have been fine.
Michael, I will come to wherever it is that you live. I think it's New York. I don't know. And I will fight you in person with my hands.
All right.
Fun. We're all
we like to have
fun
fun around here.
Yeah. Do we want to talk about a comic, though?
Hell yeah.
All right.
Yeah,
so last time we covered the first volume and I think the first half of the second volume, and then we had some
natural break
things come up.
So it was like, Jonah, it's fine. We understand you had important things you had to do, and you left us hanging. But we understand.
Very unprofessional of me to leave in the middle of a podcast. I'm so sorry, guys. But I mean, you guys off air forgave me, so we can move on.
On air, still very angry.
On air, never forgive me.
No, never forget. You're like an elephant. You never forget to kill. So we were on chapter 6, I believe, which I guess we should do a quick review. So this book is about, as I mentioned at the top of the show, a god who is trying to get followers. His name's Yato. One of the things these guys do is they have, what would you call them? They're like a ghost that's like a human ghost that has become kind of their companion. They've given them a name, and therefore they work directly with whatever god they are, affiliated with. But they also turn into like a sweet weapon that's kind of based on that ghost's personality when they were a person. So currently Yato has taken on a young boy who was, I think he was 14, they said, when he died. And he's become this, basically the sword that has no hilt. And then the problem is that he's a rowdy teen that doesn't want to follow the rules now that he's a ghost. And that is actually causing Yato to, kind of start having some problems with, getting corrupted, and it's incredibly painful every time this kid breaks the law, which is constantly because he realized that people, like humans, if they're not directly interacting with him, don't notice he's there because they're kind of spirit realms kind of in their blind spot. They describe it. So he starts just shoplifting and like taking money from people and just generally being a terrible, terrible person.
So much tax evasion.
Yeah, that's how they're going to get him. Just like, there's also this character, Hiyori, who is a girl who tried to save Yato when she thought he was going to get hit by a car and ended up basically knocking her spirit out of her body. So she's got her normal alive form, which everyone just assumes she now has narcolepsy because every time she leaves her body just falls asleep. So she's a pretty cool character. She's like obsessed with pro wrestling and stuff. So she does moves when she's fighting these monster things that,
isn't it more like martial? I think it's martial arts.
Well, yeah, that's fair. She calls it pro wrestling, but pro wrestling is just whatever looks cool.
I think it's called. I think in some translations it's just called martial arts.
Okay,
I don't like professional wrestling.
I've heard that's a point of contention
on
what kind of content is on a certain website.
Yep. Although I hear Japanese professional wrestling is cool as hell, and I believe it.
I've seen some, even ones people that have come over and wrestled in, like the WWE. If you watch clips of them when they were in Japan, they do way cooler stuff over there.
I just don't love sweaty rednecks. That's all it is.
That's fair.
I don't know what it is.
I mean, where else are you going to see a person dive off of the outside of a steel cage and explode through a table?
That's true. You got me there.
So
New Zealand, like every Saturday, but whatever.
Well, I've never been, so I'm just going to have to take your word for it that's what you and your friends get up to.
Yeah.
You and the Insane Clown Posse get together when they're touring and just have at it
obviously.
In someone's backyard. All the time. Just slam each other through tables. All right. So back to this comic book that we're talking about, I suppose. So we left off with Hiyori taking Yukine, who's the young... I don't even remember what they're called. They're like the ghost person. Shinki, that's right.
Shinki is what they're called.
Yeah.
They're called regalia.
I will take care of him and make sure he stays on the straight and narrow. And we all know how that's going to go real well. So, we're picking up in chapter 6. Is that correct?
Yes.
As I say with confidence, we are picking up in chapter 6. That is titled Be Afraid.
Can I do the first one? Can I be the recapper?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, good. Because it says my name
Michael's
next
name
to
is
it.
next to it.
So I should. So Yukine is taken to live with Hiyori, which is a great idea. And like he basically, no one can see him pretty much, so he just kind of has to like lay low, and her parents are never going to find out. It's going to be fine.
Yeah.
No, it's all good.
But then Yato shows up and like he's with Hiyori's parents, and Hiyori takes Yato in the garden to admonish him. And this is when Yato explains that Yukine's sins affect him in a bad way, and essentially this is the god, like gods they can't sin, they can't do bad stuff. If they do it, it's not bad, kind of thing.
Right.
But like, so
when I do it, it's funny.
Yeah. So Shinkis are basically, they exist almost to be like a moral compass and show them what is good and bad by literally hurting them if they do bad things, right?
Yeah. Sounds like a great setup.
Yeah, it seems fine. So that night, Yukine he's scared of the dark, and he can't sleep, and Hiyori invites him into her bed, and he is a real 14-year-old boy, and he gets super horny.
Yeah, that's going to happen. I'm sorry to say. That's It's a very uncomfortable scene.
Right. It's not great.
Hey, like, whomst among us has not written and drawn several panels of a 15, 16-year-old girl being incredibly sexualized by a 14-year-old boy? It's fine. It's not problematic and weird at all.
Well, to be fair, this is a 14-year-old boy in bed next to a similarly aged girl.
It's incredibly accurate.
So it's not.
Oh, it's very accurate.
Yes, that's what I was getting.
No one's arguing that.
Yeah.
So Yato,
if anyone remembers what it's like to be a teenager, it's pretty much just constant horny town.
Gross.
So it's pretty gross and awful. And
I don't want to think about it. No one say anything about my almost 16-year-old son. So
he was 16. What?
A couple of weeks. He's gonna be 16. Let's not. Can we not? I don't want to. I don't want to discuss it. All
right.
It's gross. He's gross all the time. I love him, but yuck. So Yato shows up and he's like, this is a sin. Ow. Please stop.
Yeah.
This is not good for your horniness is bad for me physically.
Yes.
Yeah. It's like that was kind of the point that I was like, I feel like you might have made a mistake here because he's like, if you ever have these thoughts, it's going to hurt me. And I was like, you know that he's like 14, right? This is just going to happen for the next like 5 years, and even then, it's probably just going to continue anyway.
This is bad news. So over the next few days, Yukine is essentially a huge piece of shit, and he does everything from stealing Hiyori's money, or he steals Hiyori's money and buys a bunch of stuff with it, and so Yato asks Hiyori to take Yukine to see friends of his. This is the god Ibisu and the shinki Kofuku. Which I by the way, love these characters. They're very good characters.
They're fantastic. They have such a cool, like, dynamic.
And, like, you don't know what their deal is at all at first, right? Like, you have no idea at all. She's just adorable, and he's just, like, this big dude.
Yeah, and she Yato's just like, hey, it's my girlfriend. And everyone's like, what the heck are you talking about?
Yeah. And by the way, that never, like, pays off or comes up again. Like, yeah, I think she's just so nice and sweet that she just kind of like goes along with it, even though I don't
like that.
think it's true. It's just weird. Anyway, she's adorable. And, so Hiyori learns that Yato was once a warrior god and that he also killed a shinki.
Yeah.
And so why he asks Hiyori to bring Yukine to this place, like she doesn't know, but they seem really nice. And, you know, now she's got another sort of connection to the far shore, which is cool. So, and I hope you guys read more of this stuff, and cause they go deep into Yato's past.
Yeah.
And, it's fucking real interesting.
Yeah. Kafuku and her Koru's like dynamic is great. Like, yeah, she's just like like you said, like super happy, loves everybody, and he's just like constantly pissed off because he just assumes everyone's gonna like try and mess with her, and it's his job to protect her. So even like Yato showing up, like his first interaction is kicking Yato across the room because they're being buddies and like being close near each other, and he's like, you're not supposed to, you know, mess with her at all. And it's just, you know, they're just being friends, but it's just funny because he's like the opposite of pretty much all of the other Shinki that we've seen, because they've all been either like quiet or they don't know what they're doing, like the new guy, or it's just funny to see this dynamic kind of contrast everyone else that we've seen so far in the and from the far shore. Like you were saying, it's a good connection to have, because it also shows us like not all of them are these like stern gods that like some of the other ones that he meets later.
Yeah. So Hiyori takes Yukine back to Yato, and he tells her that like if anything happens to him, and he doesn't specify what, but if anything happens to him, take Yukine there to, you know, back to Ebus. Oh my God. Why can't I say Ibisu? Take it back to Ibisu and Kofuku. Which will come up very soon. Very soon. So Hiyori leaves just as the sun goes down, and Yato says that that's like the perfect time for weird shit to happen. That sort of in between dusky time. And then a lady on a lion with a big old whip shows up.
Damn. That's weird.
She isn't wearing a lot of clothes, let's say.
Not a lot.
But she's got a cool hat, and so that's good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She's got the most anime ass design, I think, of any character thus far.
So far, definitely.
She definitely looks like she could be a character in, like, an Arc System Works fighting game.
Yeah.
She got big ass, she got big titties, she got a big hat, and she got a big lion. So
and a whip.
Everything big.
Her whole deal too, you guys, is really interesting, which again is after we read here, but the stuff that they go into with her is really fucking interesting. She's a really sort of like, at first you're like, oh God, what do we got here? She's like this very sort of deep, interesting character once you
honestly, just from what we read, I expected to hate her when she first showed up because of the design being so over the top.
Yes.
I actually liked her character pretty much immediately once she actually started interacting with people.
Yeah. And like, and it goes to places that you wouldn't necessarily think it would go. But it's very cool. Anyway, that's chapter 6.
All right.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, let's get to, I'll do chapter 7 and then we can discuss because that's the last one of volume 2. So chapter 7, we meet the lady with the lion and the whip. She is the warrior god Bishamon, and she is shown up to do battle with Yato over a sin that he has committed, which we're not aware of what that is yet. Yukine is about to run away, but it's pretty clear that she's been sent or come to kill Yato and Yukine, and he turns Yukine into a sword and then runs away, but is able to deflect the whip that she's been using. Bishamon gives chase with her lion, which is clearly intelligent, so it's not just a lion that she's riding around on. It's almost as if it's its own person.
What?
Dun, dun, dun.
And a weapon in a way, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
One might say that.
They're aided by a talking brooch and tactical support eye tattoo that Bishamon possesses. You know, all those normal character traits that people have. So Hiyori is about to get involved, but has to disguise the fact that she can see a Bishamon, as Yato thinks that she'll just kill her too, because she's clearly super powerful compared to what they're used to dealing with.
Oh, yeah. She's super strong.
Yeah. So Bishamon and Yato do battle, and Yukine is actually surprisingly able in the fight. Like, he's cutting bullets in half from Bishamon's gun that she's been shooting him with that she also has. And he starts
the gun also talks.
Yes. Starts moving on his own to slice through the whip and attack the lion. But there's still not enough. So they end up fleeing into the forest. So
I feel like we mentioned this last time, but the action in this is actually really good.
Yeah.
It's quite exciting and it's quite dynamic. And I mean, this is the problem with going so long between recording the episodes is I can't remember if I said this last time, but like with a lot of shonen, sometimes I can get kind of confused as to like exactly what's going on, and it can get a little bit obscured with a lot of like movement lines or like, you know, big text and stuff like this. But this is all really easy to follow and kind of like it flows very naturally, and like it's just really good. It's just really, really well done.
Yeah, no, I agree. Like it's, I actually, because of your recommendation last time, Michael, I actually watched the first few episodes of the anime to compare, and it's also very, very good.
Yeah, it's good.
I was enjoying it. I think I only watched what would be the first 2 or 3 chapters worth of content, but I'm really excited to go back and watch more of it after. I was kind of waiting till we got a little farther in the recordings and stuff, but I do want to watch more of it. So the action sequences translate very well to the anime, I would say. So back to the story. So then meanwhile, when there's the big battle going on, Hiyori goes and fetches Ibisu and Kofuku because that's like, oh, this must be what Yato meant by if something happens, then go get them. So they all show up in the forest, and Ibisu, we see her like use her power, and she ends up ripping a huge hole in the ground because it turns out she's actually kind of garbage at this stuff, and she's Binbo Gami, the god of poverty, and is actually a giant dumbass, but a very lovable dumbass. So this giant spiritual hole that she's ripped in the ground is going to attract the Ayakashi, which are those weird creatures that they've been fighting every time, that the near and the far shore are too close together, like in Twilight and whatnot. So everybody's like, we got to get out of here because they're going to be all these are going to be attracted by this. But Bishamon actually notices and, gives him Yato crap for having this blight because Yukune is being an asshole and stealing things and treating his friends like garbage, stealing from them, the usual.
The usual fun stuff, yeah.
And so Yato's trying to wash away the blight that night later. They've gotten away from the battle and things have calmed down a little. So he's trying to use the water at the temple to wash away the blight. And just then we see a shinki show up that is the stray. So she's got crazy symbols like all over herself and like an eye patch that's flipped up. Like she, like, if you want that to look cool, you can't have it flipped up like that. I'm sorry.
You just have to wear it. Just own it.
But anyway, so that was the end of volume 2 is we're introduced to this mysterious new character, the stray. So yeah, what did you think of this volume? We'll start with Kieran.
I really enjoyed it. Like as I said before, I don't think Yato is like my most favorite character of all time. But at this point, there's enough interesting stuff going on around him that I'm still like on board. And I really enjoy Ebisu and Kofuku being added. And like you, Jonah, I was like, on Bishamon when she first showed up because I thought the design was like so aggressively anime that I was like, as soon as she showed up and she's like, she's wearing like a bra and like a little mini skirt thing and she's riding a lion. And as soon as I saw her, I was just like, ugh, here we go. But then when she's like chasing Yato down and she's like, shooting him with her talking gun and like she has like the tattoo and stuff, I was like, oh, okay, she's actually like pretty freaking cool.
Yeah.
So yeah, I really enjoyed like the addition of like the new characters and stuff. And yeah, in the very end where Yato, like he's trying to wash away the blight and he's showing a bit of doubt about Yukine. And I can't really exactly pinpoint why, but for some reason I found that development or like admission on his part that maybe he's made a mistake. I found that really interesting. And so that actually kind of kept me going straight into the next volume. So yeah, I really enjoyed it.
Yeah. Michael, thoughts on this volume?
Yeah, I am a big fan. These new characters that get added are awesome. Bishamon, everything of all of her shit, those are all shinki. Her leather bra as a shinki. They're all shinki. Like everything about her.
Oh, really?
Earring.
Even the clothes.
Oh.
Wow.
Yeah. Like everything. We'll eventually you'll find out more about that whole thing. But yeah, she's a really cool character. So these are like Bishamon is one of the actual, this is all actually really based on, Japanese, not mythology, that's the wrong word. But there's like these 7 gods of fortune, and Bishamon is usually this like big warrior guy, full of armor. So I think it's like for the Japanese audience, it's like a fun twist that it's a like biker chick.
Right.
It's this god of war. Cause that's the war god, right? And, it's really funny that, cause I guess Ebisu is, like, I was just looking at my phone a second ago. Not like I know this stuff. Ebisu is the god of like wealth. But this other one that they mentioned is actually the god of like misery. So it's interesting that she's sort of pretending to be, for like, cause as the way gods in this realm work, or in this, sort of world work, they, it is essentially a popularity contest. So,
right.
So like if you're the god of misery, ain't no one coming by. So she's like done some good PR to make herself like, actually
got to put a positive spin on that.
Yeah. Actually, I'm the opposite of the god of poverty. I'm the god of wealth. So I don't know. It's good stuff. And I find Yukine kind of frustrating in this volume. And he continues to be very frustrating in the next volume. But we'll see where that goes.
Yeah. Yeah, I like this one too because the secondary characters are where this book really shines for me. Up until that point, like Kieran pointed out, the very end of this where we actually see Yato like have more of a personality, and then he's like, I came around on him by the end of this one too. But the side characters are really what kept me really interested in this, like seeing how like the blight worked and how, you know, a 14-year-old who's lost everything and is constantly feeling cold and hungry and is kind of pissed off at the world is like, is going to do bad things. Like, that doesn't surprise me, that he would just be like, well, nobody's going to catch me because I'm, you know, basically a ghost. So he just starts like stealing stuff. And even when he takes money from Hiyori, which is a really, really shitty thing to do to your friend.
So shitty.
It's like, I known people who've like kids who've done that kind of stuff when, you know, it's like, oh, my friend comes from a family with money, so who cares? Right. It's like, yeah, that's still not okay. I can see the justification. Like, the character is well developed, even though he's being a terrible, terrible kid. Yeah, I just really enjoyed the side characters, and even like not being super on board with Yato at first, it was fine because all the other characters were so interesting. And by the time like we get into the next volume, I think Yato starts becoming a way more interesting character as we kind of learn a little bit about his backstory and stuff. So that'll take us into volume 3, chapter 8. So Kieran, why don't you take us away?
I will take us away. So this is chapter 8, Strays on a Stormy Night. So the Stray, which is basically her, this Shinki's name, she tries to get Yato to use her, saying that soon Yukine will be more than he can handle. But in the meantime, Bishamon gets prepped to fight the Ayakashi that are now pouring out of this hole made by Ibisu. Hiyori has noticed the same thing, with more bad news hitting the city thanks to yet more Ayakashi just constantly being around. But on the good news side, though, Yato has finally taken Yukine away, and the two are now toiling away at a noodle shop for, I would assume, 5 yen. That same night, Hiyori arrives with Ibisu and Kofuku, having found Yato secretly by smell alone. So she can smell Yato and like pick him out in a crowd based on his smell just by itself.
It's weird.
Which is weird. It's weird. Ibisu and Kofuku have a job for Yato, but they kind of tease him and say like maybe he's not up to the task. So Yato then accuses Yukine of stealing from the till, but he appears to be innocent and storms off in a huff like a big baby. Hiyori and Yato give chase, with Yukine just happening to go where the job is, which is to kill a giant butterfly. But just when they catch up to him, Yukine trips over and a box of charity money falls out of his jacket.
Stealing from Ronald McDonald House, that bastard.
Yeah, right? What the hell? And you're like, oh, maybe they'll confront him and chastise him for his actions and he will develop. No. Yukine doesn't feel bad in the slightest. And it is
he's like,
very frustrating.
Hey, I'm dead. I deserve this money. That's his reaction.
Yeah. They're like, hey, you're stealing from kids who literally have cancer. And he's like, well, I'm dead. I don't care. Neener, 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 neener. And then the stray then shows up and mocks them both, asking why Yato no longer wants her. After all, she did a great job of killing Bishamon Shinki.
Uh-oh.
What?
Dun, dun, dun.
Oh, that doesn't seem like a good thing that Yato did.
Nope.
One might even say it's a sin. So they hoof it away from her and they take on this giant butterfly. But unfortunately, due to Yato's blight and Yukine being a huge shithead, they really struggle with it. But after Yato spies the stray watching from an alleyway, he purifies Yukine and pledges to temper the boy, slaying the butterfly. And the next day, Hiyori wonders if Yato's commitment to Yukine means that she can trust him. Just as she thinks that, Bishamon shows up and half notices that she can see her, but before Hiyori can react, one of Bishamon's Shinkis appears behind her.
Dun, dun, dun.
And that's the end of that chapter. I'm going to say straight up, I really enjoyed this chapter, but God, Yukine was really just like pressing on my nerves here.
Yeah, that's fair. I did appreciate though with the, the way that their personalities and stuff affect what weapon they become was really interesting, because earlier, like the first time he used Yukine as the weapon, he said it's like way too sharp, like he couldn't control it and stuff. But this time he comments that it's like dull, like it's not cutting the way it should and stuff. So like all this crazy like baggage he has from his bad behavior and his angst and whatnot is actually like making him a less effective weapon too, which I thought that was an interesting twist. I wasn't expecting it to go that direction. It's like, I thought it was kind of a one-way street of Yato bearing the brunt of all the crappy stuff happening, but it makes him a terrible weapon, not, which was cool. But yeah, I liked this. And you got to see, Bishamon's like little crew of all of her shinki, which was cool. Like they're all, because she's the god of war, in these like military uniforms, which is an interesting contrast to everyone else who's just kind of been bumming around in like, you know, regular street clothes. And then she is like a professional at her being the god of war, which I thought was a fun contrast to see.
Yeah, and you had I forget his name, but the god of knowledge or whatever has everyone's in kimonos and and all very like formal and stuff. It's they all have their own flavors. Hey guys, can I
just in a tracksuit?
Can I do chapter 9, abominable creature? I mean, I understand if you don't want me to, but I would love to.
No, it's okay. Go ahead.
Thank you.
You know what? If
I would
you've claimed it,
thanks,
we shall
buddies.
bestow it upon you.
So Bishamon's Shinki Kazuma casts spells on Hiyori to make her invisible to Bishamon. Why would he do that?
That's weird.
Yeah, and because Bishamon's currently searching for Yato. Kazuma tells Hiyori that he owes Yato a debt, and that if Yukine continues to be a shithead, Yato will actually die.
I liked this. I liked this a lot.
Yeah. So he asks Hiyori to help Yato as he owes him too much. So far we've heard that Yato killed one of Bishamon's Shinki. That is why she's trying to kill him. Yet her kind of like one of her like main dudes, kind of like her, like this is the guy who really like he's like a, I don't know, what would you call it? He's like radar. Like he's like a tracking system. He's like one of her most effective, useful weapons. He's like kind of her main dude, and yet he owes Yato so much and is trying to help him out. So that was going on.
Very good wrinkle.
Layers upon layers upon layers.
So Hiyori wonders if Yukine's behavior is maybe kind of her, well, at least partially her fault. And but then she puts aside her cares to go pray at a shrine with her friends. She offers prayer to Tenjin-sama to protect Yato and Tenjin-sama, oddly enough. And he oddly enough appears to her in an adjacent garden, and he tells her that while he doesn't know about Yato, Yukine appeared to him a few days ago asking for a job. So he's just kind of like trying to quit Yato, I guess.
He's like, yo, can I just have a new job? Because my current one,
because my
blows.
boss sucks. And he explains that a Shinki takes on one name when they work for a god, and only one. They can take on multiple names like the Stray, but it's seen as vile and disgusting. And usually a god would only do such a thing for a task that they wouldn't want to sully their normal Shinki with. So they're kind of like, they're like side garbage weapons.
Yeah. They're the poors of this world, where these rich gods are like, I'm not going to lower myself to interacting with this Stray. Yeah. What is he, homeless? Come on.
Gross.
They're pretty much classist, and it's bad.
So Hiyori walks away, and then she actually encounters the Stray herself. She's like kind of pissed at Yato at this point for treating the Stray the way he has, I guess. But the Stray immediately attacks Hiyori with Ayakashi wolves. She essentially just immediately tries to kill her. And says that she just doesn't like her, and sees Hiyori as just another Ayakashi. And
because Hiyori tries to have a conversation with her, and she's like, oh, like, hey, how's it going? Like, you seen Yato? And she's like, why are you talking to me?
Yeah.
How do you think that we're ever the same? Fuck off.
Yeah. But luckily, Hiyori is just barely saved by the first sunrise of the new year. Phew.
Yeah. Those wolves look rad as hell, by the way.
Yeah, they're cool.
They have like these masks on that they're like these eyeball masks, and they talk to the stray and stuff. And I'm like, man, I know they're bad guys, but more of these crazy wolves, please. And their appearance is like super creepy. I loved it. Like where they just kind of appear in the shadows behind them. And yeah, they're a very, very cool design.
Mm-hmm. So the next day, Hiyori is washing her hands in the school bathroom, and she's like, I gotta find Yato. But she's already in Yato's favorite place, the girls' bathroom. And
right, as we saw in Volume 1.
And who should appear above one of the stalls? It's Yato.
It's Yato. Yeah, because Yato hates urinals.
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
the boys' room's
splash
pretty
everywhere.
Gross, right?
They're all bad.
To be fair, they're really hard to take a shit in.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what I always say.
You're constantly saying that. We've had to edit it out so many times.
You've edited it out? Damn.
Yeah, well, sorry. I mean, Logan has, not me. I told him to leave them in, so.
Logan, come on.
All right. So, chapter 9.
Yeah, that's chapter 9 for you.
Chapter 9 was rad as hell. I really enjoyed a lot of the, like, developments in this one where, like, it's generally just good storytelling, but they're taking something that they've already established and being like, you thought you knew, but you didn't.
Mm-hmm.
Like, Yato's going to die, and then Shinki only having one name, and then the stray just immediately turning around and trying to kill Hiyori. Like, what's up with that? And, there are so many questions that were raised in this chapter that I found really interesting. And I was immediately just full of curiosity about all this stuff. And I thought it was a super rad chapter.
Yeah.
Total coincidence that Yato's barely in it.
The stray is like so adorable. You're like, we're going to like this character. And it's like, oh no, she's straight up evil.
I like the character because she's straight up evil. It's great.
Yeah. Like she offers zero justification for why she is trying to kill Hiyori. And she's like, I just don't like you. And I want to kill you because that's something I just want to do.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I was really impressed with the way they were able to get all the lore in this chapter without it feeling like a slog, because there isn't just a character like, now hold on, have a seat and grab a cup of tea because we're going to just tell you how this world works for 20 pages or whatever. They did it in a really fun and interesting way where it's being woven into scenes where there's actual character development and things happening, and it's not an easy thing to pull off. So I was like you said, this chapter was rad as hell, and the wolves were very cool, and I hope they make a return someday. They got to get their due.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so let's jump into chapter 10, and this one is titled Crossing the Line. So I'll take this one. So Hiyori justifiably beats up Yato and Yukine for being in the girls' restroom, and then beats up a third boy that's in the bathroom with a broom. But it turns out that the third boy is not just a random pervert at all, but is in fact Manabu, Yato and Yukine's newest client. He's always being bullied and wants Yato to help. He's got to pay that 5 yen though, or else it's never going to happen. And he's always wishing he was somewhere else. So Yukine is, judgmental of this attitude, and Yato scolds him and is also once again hurt by the negative thoughts of Yukine. And Yukine, being his rowdy teen self, storms off because that's what he does. Yato gives Manabu a craft knife, saying that he should blow off some steam, but also whispers a warning to him. Hiyori, understandably, is concerned about this because, he just gave him a knife. He's like, go stab a few people, but it's probably not what he told them to do.
She's like, yo, why did you give an angry teen a knife? He's like, that's fine. That's fine. It's fine.
But we find out that Yato is too ill to do anything right now, and he has to go lay down. So his powers are really suffering at this point. Like, he can't hardly even function as, like, on the same level as, like, a regular human because too many sins from Yukine, who's now wandering the school, doing a few math problems, observing kids playing games, lamenting that he's dead and has no friends.
Being a teen.
And we get to
real
see,
sad.
Yeah. In parallel, though, Manabu, this student that had hired Yato, is also wondering why he has no friends, and they both are just feeling sad and alone. And it's like, okay, yeah, that's a legit thing that happens, especially when you're, a teen and trying to figure life out, and later as an adult and trying to figure life out. So, at the school, Hiyori's searching for Yato, and Manabu is seduced by a Ayakashi to blow off some steam, wink, wink, because as we've established, the Ayakashi are pretty evil and try and get people to do bad things and steal their souls. They love doing that. They can't get enough. And basically, again, I know this keeps coming up. I hate it that keeps happening, but he's like, hey, you should end it all.
Yep.
So that's a recurring thing. I thought was kind of a one-time thing, but apparently comes up.
I don't think it happens a ton more, but I have not read all. So I think I don't think there's a lot more of it.
Warning on this book.
Yeah, for sure.
And Manabu, he confronts his bully with the knife. So not the thing we wanted to see.
No, he made a bad decision, one might say.
Real bad decision to give an angry teenager a knife, it turns out. Yato is, the instructions were to, let's see, per Yato's whispered instructions, he tosses the other boy the knife and then stares him down.
So really, it's an even worse decision because he gave an angry teen a knife and then was like, hey, also take a second knife. And, the Ayakashi are there egging on, Manabu to cut the bully. And he recalls the final warning he was given that he would lose his humanity. And the Ayakashi is dispelled. The bully pisses his pants and runs away. As you do. Manabu remarks that he needed to make a stand and running away wouldn't solve his problems anymore. I still feel there was better ways to resolve this issue than a potential knife fight. But Hey, remember, kids, if you're having trouble, just make a violent and over-the-top emotional stand against whatever your problem is, and it will be fine. There will be no negative consequences from drawing a knife on someone you go to school with, and also throwing a knife at that person and being like, yo, let's do a bit of knife fighting.
In school, yeah.
In school, yeah.
That's where all the good knife fights happen, if I'm remembering high school correctly.
Flawlessly.
Yeah. And, he complains now that, everyone's going to ignore him, or, no one's ever going to ignore him again. And Yato's like, hey, all you need is one irreplaceable friend, which you don't have any friends. So, I'm not sure. This was a confusing lesson.
It was confusing. I got the bit at the, sorry. Finish the chapter recap.
Sure.
Then we'll talk about
Let's finish the chapter and then we can review it, as we do on this show. So Yato feels Yukine's pain and loneliness, saying that he never wanted money or things, only friends. But being part of the Far Shore, he can now never have that. Yato hopes that Yukine won't cross the line, but he does by smashing a bunch of windows in a rage, and Yato collapses, and the blight takes over his body. Hiyori puts Yato on her back and takes him to Abisu and Kufuku, saying that Yato is dying. So that's the end of chapter 10, the chapter that was very uncomfortable.
Yeah, I feel like if anything, this was a misstep as far as the story goes, and as far as the story. I think it's supposed to show you that that Yato is actually wise in a way, and he does this kind of cool thing, and it like works out well, and like you're supposed to think like, oh, this boy's gonna be better now, but like in reality, this is all real bad. This is like awful shit.
He's like, well, this is how we did it in the 1500s, so it's good enough for the 2000s.
Basically, like it like as you said, Michael, it's supposed to indicate that like, Yato is truly a master of human nature, but like the kid could have just as easily like killed himself or killed the bully and then killed himself as well, and it's like it could have all gone horribly wrong in about 2 seconds. So Yato doesn't come across as particularly wise. He comes across as very lucky.
Right.
Very irresponsible, too.
Oh, yes, that too.
Yeah.
Like, this chapter made me extremely uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I can totally see that. What I was going to say, though, is that I did understand the whole, like, because Manabu's thing is that he's like, he's like, no one's ever going to ignore me ever again. And like, I'm going to be like known by everybody. And Yato says like, no, you don't need to be known and liked by everyone. You just need like a friend, like someone who you can always rely on. And the whole thing where like what Yukine wants, or what he actually, no, not what he wants, what he needs is he needs that friend, and he's trying to replace it by stealing and buying other things and doing all this like shit stuff because he's actually very lonely. That I was like, okay, that's that's an interesting kind of insight into Yukine's character, and like a bit of a commentary on like friendship and things like that. The fact that it is like bundled up in this weird package of like a kid who has like a craft knife at school is a misstep.
Yeah.
But I did kind of understand it by the end. It just could have been presented like literally any other way.
Right. It also does it informs us quite a bit about Yato, specifically the bit where he's like, you just need one good friend. And we end up seeing this with a bunch of the different gods where they all have very different takes on their shinki. Like Yato just wants one really good shinki who he can like look after and almost be like fatherly to or whatever. Whereas, there's like I should probably look up his name, but there's like the god of knowledge who basically just wants
Tenjin-sama.
What's that?
Tenjin-sama is his name.
that guy. He likes to have lots of shinki, but they all have to be like perfect. And if they step out of line, they're gone. They're immediately gone. And then where Bishamon, like, she just collects them and like, she sort of takes on all of their shit, which we'll find out after it comes up further. But it's just, they all have kind of like different takes on what to do, and it ends up being really interesting to me.
Yeah, I agree. All right.
So a weird one for sure.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's take it home. We got one more chapter in this volume, chapter 11, A Name. Kieran, do you want to take it away?
I will. Ibisu and Kofuku won't allow Yato or Yukine inside, saying that they're way too blighted. But Hiyori is allowed inside, though, to wash off the blight. Ibisu says that Yato can only be saved by punishing Yukine. Kofuku says that he'll go to a couple other shrines and ask to use their shinkis in a ritual known as an ablution, which I thought was a term for brushing your teeth and having a shave, but that's fine. Kofuku enlists the help of Tomine, and Tenjin-sama wonders why Yato doesn't just kill Yukine. Sadly, Kofuku is unable to find a third shinki to help, so Hiyori sneaks away to enlist the help of Kazumu, Bishamon's shinki from earlier, who owes Yato like a massive favor. I feel like this counts. Kazumu is keen to help, but tells Yato he needs to forsake Yukine. Yato is like, fuck that, no way. So the three of them get to work and do the ablution. They tear Yukine's shirt off, and he's covered in teeny tiny eyes, which is really creepy, which are signs of blight and a warning that he could turn into an Ayakashi. Ooh, boy.
He was full on looking like he was out of Parasite for a minute there.
Oh, yeah, 100%. So they encase him in a purifying triangle, and Yukine sprouts wings, furious at this cage. He says that the living have everything, but the dead have nothing. Why shouldn't he take from them? His eyes turn black and he says they should all die. Hiyori runs up to the barrier and says that Yato promised to take care of him and bore the pain that he caused him just like a father would. So he in fact does have something. Yato then calls out to him, saying that he gave him a human name and so expects him to live like a human. Yukine realizes that it's his choice to live and he begins apologizing for his sins. The next morning, the ablution is finally done, and Yato says that he hopes Yukine has finally learned his lesson, and the two thank Hiyori profusely for saving them. She embraces them both and is just grateful that they're alive. And that's the end.
Yeah. Everyone has a good cry by the end. So yeah, that was the end of Volume 3. So we'll get into the Volume 3 and final thoughts, I suppose. Michael, do you want to kick us off?
Yeah, sure. This chapter 11 is real. I love it so much. It like sort of, we have like dynamic characters and it pays off, and like even the art is beautiful. I love that Yukine finally comes around and we see that Yato has actually been kind of like, very good to Yukine in a way. And like, everyone's like, you should just give up on him. You should just kill him or get rid of him. And he's basically willing to, die, to try to have this one, good, try to save this one sort of spirit that he thinks, has a lot of potential or whatever. So,
yeah. Kieran?
I thought this chapter was great. I really enjoyed when Hiyori kind of goes up to the barrier and she's like, yo, like Yato is like basically your dad, right? And I think that is kind of one of the bits that really like that got me, that kind of made me reevaluate Yato's character, because I think like prior to this he comes across as very like aloof and he's trying to be the kind of wise god sort of thing, but then like this, to use I guess a very appropriate term, it humanizes him in a way. And you kind of realize that like that is his perspective. He doesn't see Yukine as like as just a shinki. He sees him as kind of like his son, as like a member of his family. And he's taking all of this stuff on for him, and that's that's his way of showing him that he loves him. And so, I really enjoyed it. It was such a good kind of conclusion to everything that we'd kind of seen prior. And I think in a way it's almost like if you're gonna decide like, do I want to continue reading or watching Noragami, I think you almost have to get like to this point, because this feels like a logical kind of launching point for like, okay, now all our characters are really entrenched with each other. Let's go on and like, do the story kind of thing. Cause like, prior to this, everyone's still kind of finding their feet. So I thought this was a really good last chapter.
Yeah, I would totally agree. So I guess getting into my final thoughts of this book, as a whole, this first 3 volumes as one story arc, I really, really liked it. It's an easy recommend actually for me, because it's, it doesn't have the problem a lot of this style of like action oriented anime has, where like a lot of them, the first story arc is kind of just whatever, like they're just, oh, here's some characters and we'll see what they're doing, yada yada. And sometimes it takes that first arc to even like get those characters out enough to make them interesting. And then it's like, okay, now it's where it gets good, is after this first story arc. Like even stuff I like Naruto has that problem. Like that first story arc seems to just drag and drag and drag. And then you get past it and all of a sudden you're like, oh, this book's actually amazing.
Yeah. Because the first story arc, especially in Naruto and things like that, is like, it's just a case of like, okay, like, please, like, stick around. There's going to be some really good story, but to keep your attention, here's a bunch of action. Whereas this one kind of goes for the opposite. Like, there's a lot more character-driven stuff before you get to the, cutting a giant butterfly in half.
Right. There's like a big action set piece right away. So you get to like, at the school, they see that giant, what do they call it, Kashi or whatever, like flying around, and you get a battle right away, and then it rolls right into the story. So I think it does a good job of mixing the two, and when there are action scenes, they're really well done in this. But by the end, like, just these 3 volumes, like, I have a really good sense of who all these characters are, and there's like obviously more to them, and I felt like you want to learn more about what's going on, even with, like I said, a lot of the side characters are where this book shined for me. Yato is like whatever for most of the book. Like, I like him by the end of this story arc though. So like, even moving forward from here, I'm more interested to see what he's up to, just because you get a better sense of him as a character too, because he spends a lot of the second half, I would say, like basically the stuff we're covering this episode, just being like half dead because of all the blights that he's been dealing with. So this kind of arc for him is just kind of like a starting point almost, because it was getting everyone else to the point they needed to be to kind of like move forward now that that's all been established. So Michael, final thoughts?
Yeah, I'm really like, when we were trying to decide how much of this we should read, I kind of just was like, yeah, sure, whatever, guys. And in retrospect, I think we've ended in the perfect place. This is exactly where we wanted to be, because I think it really, that this moment, this like chapter 11, is I think where it really like solidifies. And I think that's when I knew, I was like, oh yeah, I love this. This is great. And wanted to keep going with it. I think I blew through it a lot faster. I was just watching the anime. So I don't think I really had time to not care about Yato. Cause I just, when I think of the story, I was like, oh yeah, I guess he was kind of a shithead in the beginning. Cause I just really adore him. I think he's a wonderful character. And that probably is informed a lot more by, stuff later on. That's fair. It's really great. I like, if you like, the anime is wonderful. I'm going to keep reading the manga, cause there's way more manga, and goes far beyond where the anime.
I think volume 20 just came out, I want to say.
Last time I checked. Yeah, volume 20 or 21 just dropped.
Yeah. I am definitely going to grab more of this. So that's about the strongest recommend I can give.
Nice.
Give a book is that I'm going to keep reading it.
I was like, one of those things where I was like, I really like this. I hope when revisiting it, it is something that everyone likes. And because there was stuff that was like, I didn't think super a lot about, like, there's some pretty triggery stuff in there. And then like, when you do this sort of thing, you kind of look at something through other people's eyes a little bit. And, so I was very pleased that, that the bad stuff wasn't too bad, and that, you guys seemed to enjoy it. So,
well, and I was also worried. There's a few points at which I was worried, like, it would get really fan servicey, and it kind of tiptoed around it a couple times, but it never went like full on, making you feel like a voyeur, reading this book. Some books have that problem, and it's just it's a thing they really don't need, but maybe it helps sell books. I don't know. But anyway, so that's gonna bring us to an end. So, Michael, where can people find you online?
You can find me at geeklyinc.com. I do stuff on that website. If you want to go to Twitter, I'm on Twitter at thrifty-nerd, or maybe listen to one of my 17 podcasts.
Yeah. I would agree with that. Dear Internet, it's a little less intimidating because there's not 300 or whatever.
320.
390.
Oh my God.
And it is very, very funny. And
thank you.
I can't recommend it enough because it's all these people that I love doing a hilarious show. And it's great. Yeah.
It is super fun to do. Oh my God. It is.
If you ever decide to have guests on, definitely I request to be on that list because it, like, in the car, it's like listening to it. It's one of those where you want to I have something funny to say too, guys. You know that? Have you ever seen that meme where it's like a person sitting next to like an ad of people eating yogurt? It's like what listening to podcasts feels like. I'm like, oh yeah, this is definitely one of those podcasts because it has that like sitting around with your buddies, like just goofing around feel, which I love.
It's also by far the easiest podcast I do. Just like show up and goof around and you're done.
That's good. All right, Kieran, where can people find you?
You can find me on twitter.com. I'm at Mr.K_Bennett. You can also check out my Dungeons and Dragons podcast. Not quite as popular as Greetings Adventurers, but you know, we get like a solid 30 downloads. You know, it's fun.
Only 30,000.
Fuck you. So that is for Crits and Giggles. You can find it at for CNG Podcast on Twitter. Jonah, where can people find you?
I'm on Twitter at Spambot, and also we've hit that first goal on Patreon again, so I'll be streaming some stuff over on twitch.tv/Inks and Issues.
Nice.
I actually, right before this recording, was streaming a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles fan game that was actually really fun.
Oh, cool.
I might do that again because my kids wouldn't leave the room, and so I was basically just talking to them as I was playing it. So it wasn't the best stream, but I had fun.
That's all that's important.
Don't forget to come to GeeklyCon and hang out with us there because we have panels. There's a live show that Michael, I'm sure, is
involved in.
Yeah, involved, but prepared and not nervous about it all. And I'm sure it's
no big deal.
It's old hat at this point.
No big
right?
deal.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Whatever. I always love the live show. It's a great time.
It's very fun. All right. So with that, we will see you at GeeklyCon, and we will see you all next time. Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye. I love you.